Hello, this is my first attempt at making a video about the proverbs and philosophies of Uzbekistan. And if this video does well, or if I like the way it comes out, I might make more in the future with other cultures, such as like Pakistan and whatnot. Okay, let's begin. In this video, I'm going to talk about the word Minnat and how Uzbeks as a culture view Minnat. Okay, so what is Minnat? Minnat is a burdened favor. That is essentially what it is. I mean, I'm sure there are other definitions as to what it really is, but from what I understand, it's a burdened favor. So, for an example, you'd see that your friend is giving you money and he either reminds you that he gave you money, or they ask you to pay them back, or they might hint at it. So, it's kind of like passive instead of being straightforward and saying, "Hey, I'm giving you this money, but I want you to pay me back in a day or two." It would rather look like, "Here, I gave you my money. I'm such a good friend, aren't I? When will you do something similar or something in return for me?" And so that is kind of a brief overview of the word minnet. And now we're going to dive in. Okay, so in Uzbekistan, minnat is kind of like an invisible social contract. Like, people know to avoid minnat, yet it's such a common thing that sort of ruins cultural transactions in Uzbekistan. Minnat has become a sort of loan, an emotional loan. So when someone performs minnat, they're putting their action for you or their favor for you in a mental ledger so that they can refer back to it in the future and demand a favor in return from the person they gave the favor to or did something for. So I'm going to bring up some examples of this philosophy. Okay, number one, we have the toxic feast. This is just the general term, and the proverb itself is very common, and everybody has their own version of the proverb. However, the lesson taught by the proverb stays the same, and it does not change from the different wording of the proverb itself. So let's dive in. Minnatli oshtan ulum yaxshi. Okay, so this is kind of complicated because we're bringing in osh. And this is so what is osh? Osh is the national dish of Uzbekistan. And not just Uzbekistan, osh is prepared and eaten throughout Central Asia, and it is used in all of the traditions. So at a funeral, at the birth of someone's child, at a wedding, anything really, a business partnership, anything, you will always see osh. And today it's kind of become like a bragging right. And the background of Osh is very important to the proverb itself because it establishes a distinct meaning. So, minnatli oshtan ulum yaxshi. The direct translation is death is better than a meal given with a burdened favor. So when we take it into like a scenario, osh given with a burdened favor would look like someone giving osh to a relative or a friend so that they can ease them up and demand something later. So like think about giving osh to your neighbor so that you can tell them to start parking their car somewhere else. Basically, the proverb is trying to state that death is more favorable than a burdened favor. This is because death is not a burdened favor and it's completely free. So, this indicates the importance of the kind of bounding that these burdened favors create. Here's a picture of the food. And you can see that the food is very oily, it's heavy, it's meaty, it's dense. And this is a kind of a symbol as to how it's used in the traditions. You could see that someone would prepare this to please somebody by giving them tasty food and filling their stomach. I see this proverb as the kind of groundwork for the definition of minnet and the way people look at it. Let's take a look at a different proverb. This one is the importance of intention in favors. And so this proverb reads, Yaxshilik qil, daryoga tasha, baliq bilar. Baliq bilmasa, xoliq bilar. So the direct translation is do good, do a good action, and throw it into a river. The fish will know. If the fish does not know, then the creator will know. And this is important because obviously, almost, I don't know the exact statistic, but over 90% of Uzbeks are Muslim. Everybody knows the concept of God, everybody knows the concept of the creator, and everybody knows that the creator is omniscient and knows all. So, what is this proverb trying to do? It is trying to direct people away from Minnat because it wants to instill that people should be afraid of what God would do if you commit Minnat. Aside from the religious context, this proverb is trying to teach people on how to avoid committing favors with Minnat. And it's telling you to forget about the action that you even committed so that you can't refer back to what you've done for someone and so that you can remain good to yourself and to others instead of demanding something in return for something that you did in true heart or however you want to word it. Okay, so now we know how people view Minnat and we know how people determine what is Minnat. Now we're going to look at how Minnat affects the value of a personal favor. This third proverb is about the degradation of the value of favors or the value of good actions. The proverb reads, Minnatli tille qora loy bolar. So, the direct meaning is that when you give gold as a burdened favor, it will become black mud. Now, this is very, very easy to understand. It's not complex at all. You can see that the proverb is trying to say that if you commit a burdened favor, if you want something in return, there is no value in the favor that you committed. How can you say that you did it out of the good of your heart if you want something in return or if you want to burden the person that you are doing good to? Logically, it cancels out. You're doing good and you're benefiting the person, but you're burdening them. So, like positive, negative, just think about that. It cancels out, essentially. That's what it's trying to say. What they're trying to represent is how something so valuable or something that has the potential to be valuable becomes worthless. Is trying to emphasize the true value of a wholesome favor. Now we know all these things relating to Minnat. Now let's see how people have changed their view on working or good actions because of Minnat and their philosophy on Minnat. This proverb urges self reliance. And how does this connect? Well, this connects because people urge self reliance because they want to avoid Minnat. Yes, there are proverbs. Yes, there is like a social understanding of Minnat, but it is still hard to identify when a person is doing something out of the good of their heart or if they are doing it to expect something in return from you. Okay, the proverb reads, yordam so'ragan qo'lga emas, harakat qilgan qo'lga beriladi. So what does this proverb directly mean? This proverb says that help is not given to the hand that begs, but it's given to the hand that does, or to people who act towards that reward. And this proverb is like essentially the basis of the Uzbek everyday life. So people work to earn, and this has changed throughout time. And today, it's hard to find sincerity in doing or in action because there are other things that motivate Uzbeks today. So, how do all these concepts connect? Minnat is something that people were deadly afraid of. People wanted to avoid it at all costs. And this is true for today, but not as much as it was before. Today, it has kind of evolved from, okay, let me avoid accepting this person's favor so that I won't have to pay them back. And now it's, I'll take this person's favor, and if I do have to pay them back, I will. If I don't, I don't. And what is the cost of this evolution? The cost is dignity. And I'm not saying that the Uzbek population is losing their dignity. I'm saying that the value of personal dignity itself has sort of degraded over time. And what has that degradation led to today? While there has been very strong examples of Uzbek development, such as the speed rail or the growth in population or the growth in foreign investment, from my point of view, when I was there last year, I saw that people were struggling. And I won't exactly say that fear of Minnat was, or the change of the fear of Minnat is the root purpose. But I will say that it has definitely changed, and the development of Uzbekistan has changed. And what it is today is kind of like a mask of the true situation. You see that people are paying useless fines and they're spending all their hard earned money. They barely get livable wages, yet the cost of rent and everything else is rising exponentially. And what I've heard is that it's become comparable to like rent, food costs, and everything in America, which is insane because people make a lot less money, like a lot less money than they do here in the US. That was a comprehensive overview on the Uzbek philosophy on Minnat, or burdened favors. In the video, I talked about what Minnat is. I then talked about how people view Minnat. I then talked about how people identify Minnat. And then I talked about how Minnat degrades the value of good deeds. And for the conclusion, I talked about how Minnat as a whole and how people view and fear and avoid Minnat has affected the development and growth of Uzbek civilization today. That is the end of the video. If you want to see more videos or analysis about philosophies of different cultures or certain words, then please subscribe and like the video. YouTube, bless me up, please.